I'm an engineer, and I've got a Master of Business Administration as well. And it's really surprising just how little financial literacy you learn in school. In fact, when I did my MBA, I couldn't believe that they weren't teaching some of this stuff to just the general folk. And I've come up with this idea, guys, where I want to share 3 mindset tips that'll help you get out of poverty or get out of being broke. And the good thing about these tips is they're not something that you need to go out and do. You don't have to get off your seat and go do something immediately. You could watch this video and understand what your mindset is like currently and understand some of the gradual changes you need to make to improve your life. Let's get right into it. The number one mindset for people, guys, I like to call is inputs and outputs mindset. That is the number one mindset that is keeping people broke. When you become an adult, maybe you have kids, you have a family, and you're running stuff, you realize that the adult life is 90 to 95% culminated in taxes and bills. That is what adults do 90 to 95% of the time. I'm being serious, guys, and no one tells you this. The way the saying goes, it says there's only 2 things guaranteed in life, death and taxes, and that's so true because you can't get away from it. Every day you have some sort of bill coming in. You've got your house, you've got your mortgage, you've got your house insurance, car insurance, pet insurance, health insurance. Anything you own has an insurance on it. You've got your gas bill, electricity bill, you've got your water bill. Your car has registration. In the UK, they have this thing called MOT. I mean, there are bills everywhere, guys, and they all come in different random intervals, so week to week you're paying bills. For most people out there, they have their inputs, which is the money they earn, the salary, the money that comes in, and then they think about what they need to pay. Their bills, and then a little bit left over for some of their nice purchases. Simple as that, and most broke people out there do not escape that line of thinking. People need to escape that mindset of inputs and outputs and understand what comes in between, which is saving and investing. Now, I said at the beginning of the video that you don't need to go out there and start doing stuff, right? This is more of a mindset video. I want you guys watching this to take a step back, regardless of where you are, right? Because a lot of people are middle class or even upper middle class, and they're still trapped in that input and output mindset. I want you to step back and think about the changes you'll need to make to get into a saving and investing mindset. And you don't have to save a lot of money, you don't have to invest a lot of money, but you have to change the way you think, where it can't just be here's some money coming in, here's all the money going out, and I just repeat this, right? Because right in the middle of that is consumerism, and the entire developed nations, the Western world, I live in Australia, for example, is centered around consumerism, guys. That's what the middle class does. We consume. We go out there, we buy goods, luxury goods often. The CEO of Louis Vuitton is very rich, but the average Louis Vuitton owner is broke. Same goes for cars like Mercedes, Audis, or BMWs. So you have to really think about the inputs and outputs. Think about saving and investing. Take a step back. The number 2 thing that is keeping you in a poverty mindset, guys, is blindly following the system that has been created. Now, I said at the beginning of this video that I'm an engineer, which means I've done an engineering degree, and I've got a Master of Business Administration. So I've got 2 degrees, right? So as far as following the system or being part of the system, I'm it, right? I am deep system. But I would advise you don't follow the system, right? Because a lot of people out there, when they're growing up, their parents are always telling them, go be a doctor or an engineer, especially in a lot of migrant families. That's very much the case in many families. They're saying, go be a doctor, an engineer, or an accountant, something of that nature. But I think across the world, there is a phenomena where you do your schooling, you go get your university degree, and you go get a nice job, and you do your 9 to 5, right? That is sort of what the mindset is. And that's how we've built up our whole system. And in fact, I conform to that system. And even with my kids, I put them through that system, right? Go to school, get your degree, get your job. And that's good. That's a good system. But you shouldn't blindly follow it. See, a lot of people have passions. And you'll find this out through your hobbies. That's why hobbies and sports are so important. And through those moments of schooling and university, you'll have these periods. And in these periods, you might find a little interest and something might click. And then all of a sudden the system or society will tell you to not pursue that. It could be anything. You might like sports, right? You might enjoy soccer. And you might be playing soccer with a group of mates and you might find that there's a little business opportunity. You might want to sell some shirts to the group of soccer players. And you're really creative. You might find that. Or you might find some advertising opportunities. Or you might host meets. Whatever it is, that's the start of your journey into the beyond. That's you sort of escaping the matrix, escaping the system. And for many people out there, that is something that's looked down upon. Now, I'm not telling you to throw away your degrees, guys. These degrees, they're very important. It's very important to be educated in society. That's going to be your job. But what I am saying is keep your eyes peeled. Think about the entrepreneurial opportunities out there. Think about your passions. You hear all these stories about these guys dropping out. Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg. So many famous people who've dropped out. And a lot of people get excited about that. But those guys were smart and they were on their hustle before they started their degrees. Then they built up enough confidence to drop out. If that's the path you want to take, that's a good path. But you have had to have built up that level of expertise and that caliber and that intelligence. And, it doesn't come, you're not going to go up to university one day and think, you know what, I've got a business idea, I'll just drop out. That's not how it works. You've got to put in the work. Think about Formula One drivers. I love Formula One. A lesson that you can apply to life about Formula One is these drivers, guys, even the most talented, I'm talking the Max Verstappens, the Lewis Hamiltons, the Fernando Alonsos of the world, they start at a very young age. The kids out there are crawling and they're just trying to get through life. These kids are out there karting. They're escaping the system. They're building up those skills from a very early age. So that's what you really need to think about. It's okay to get your degree. In fact, I recommend you go and you get your degree. You follow that system that life has made for you. But you also have to question it and think outside the box and take the opportunity. So that is the second mindset. And the very last, but certainly not the least thing, is understand money. Right? What does that mean? That seems like a very ambiguous phrase, right? Understand money. What do you mean understand money? See, a lot of people who are broke and in poverty, they don't understand money. For trying to understand money, people make fun of you. I think often there's a culture around the world where if you're on your hustle or you're trying to learn, people will bring you down. They don't want to see you on the come up. They want to see it when you've made it. And when people are trying to understand money, read books, go through financial literacy, they get laughed at. And you have to avoid that and understand money, because money is simply no longer a tool you use to buy goods, right? It's not a bartering arrangement anymore. Money has a lot of components. Money is what gives you freedom in life. Whoever said money doesn't buy happiness, incorrect, guys. Yes, after a certain level it doesn't, but money gives you freedom. It lets you live where you want to live. It lets you drive the car or own a car, right? Forget driving the car you want, but money lets you own a car, which is really important. Have good food. It lets you maybe go on vacations. It lets you take care of your family. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing evil about money. There's nothing wrong with money, but people just don't understand the nature of money. And you really have to understand money before you start making it in a big way. Money has items like inflation. What is inflation? Inflation tells you that the value of what you have in the bank is eroding day by day because the cost of goods is going up. That's inflation. People don't understand that. People need to understand what it means when you have a high interest savings account. That's when the bank gives you a bit of money for keeping your money there. Does that outpace inflation, or is inflation higher? And therefore you're in the negative. What is investing your money, right? What are things like stocks, equities, bonds, money markets, IPOs? How does money work in that world? Take stocks, for example. You put your money into a stock and that stock goes up over time. Why is that going up over time? Because you haven't bought a stock, you've bought part of a business, and that business is going up over time. What people don't understand is that that business can tremendously 10x, 100x, 1000x. A single business, a single investment of $1,000 can make you a millionaire or a billionaire. So people need to understand this stuff. And you don't have to apply it. You don't have to put your money in a high interest savings account. In fact, I think they're probably useless. You don't have to buy singular stocks. You can buy an ETF, which is probably the right place to do it for many people. So you don't have to go into these certain things or these little avenues, but you have to understand money. So I hope that helps, guys. I'll catch you next time.